servant leader has become a buzzword nowadays, but I don't know no other way. You know what I mean? Like, what am I doing to give of myself, and, for any accolades, any successes, any things that may have been provided or given the opportunity for me? How am I giving that to somebody else? So, yeah, real quick, I guess my background, I'm born and raised in Cleveland. Yes, I'm a Browns fan. Cavs fan, Indians fan, and Buckeyes fan. So it ain't very often that I can wear my hat and be proud as my 8-3 Browns. But yeah, born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, and spent the first 17 years of my life there, pretty much not leaving. And then I was culture shock over to Terre Haute, Indiana. And yeah, spent 4 years of my life there at Indiana State. And then I was blessed, and I know I'm on a servant leadership podcast where I know I don't have to worry about and concern myself with talking about my faith. But yeah, I'm very specific about using that word blessed, of being able to play overseas as a professional for 13 years. So yeah, like I don't like to talk about myself, so I let you take that out, and then we can you can just pull out what you want to. But yeah, just excited to be here, excited to share, excited to connect with all these wonderful coaches that you have access to.
Hey man, I appreciate that. I laughed real hard because that's one of the things you said too when you told me you were from Cleveland on the phone call. So shout
Yeah.
out to Cleveland. One of my aunts, God rest her soul, passed away. She was right in the Cleveland area. And I told you that on the call that I have a lot of family streaming out that way. So I already knew you were on good ground.
Yeah, yeah. Shout out to Coach Vince. I see Coach Vince in the chat too. Yeah, it's all Buckeye country.
There you go. See, you already surrounded by love. So you can go ahead and just lay back real quick and get ready. I was telling you before we actually got started that, I do my research too. Okay. And, as people say, numbers don't lie. They don't always tell the, full story. But one of the things I do know is that what people pull out, you can see the authenticity. And, you kind of dropped your head because I don't like people to talk about me and put spotlight on me either. But you did a TED talk, and it basically was talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong, but water. Did I do that right?
Yeah, yeah.
With water, all right. And I want you to take a minute to just kind of sum that up for those. And we're gonna, when I put this episode out, we're gonna add the link so people can listen to that, because I started listening to that and man, I was blown. I'm a huge hoarder of knowledge in terms of with myself and to get it right. I don't want wrong information. So I hoard it, process it, and I spread it abroad. Man, it was big. It was big for me. And I'm going to listen. And I want you to just talk to our listeners a little bit about that TED talk and where it came from, the motivation, and just how you apply that to your life.
Yeah, I mean, it's all real simple, Chelsea. The motivation was literally that's what I was going through. Not when I delivered it, but when I actually wrote it. And I didn't write it to be a TED talk. I actually had another speaking engagement, and they gave me the topic, and all they gave me was the topic. So it was the original was with this group here in St. Louis called Creative Mornings. And the way that organization is set up is they'll have 12 words for the year, and each month will have a word. And so all they gave me is, I think it was back in like it was March because it was my mom's birthday. So it was March of 2019, and all they gave me was the topic of water. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then, God, it's so, like, it is, I was about to say crazy, and I'm doing my best. I do these things I call word challenges where I'll challenge the words that I say. And I'm doing my best to eliminate the word crazy. And instead of saying crazy, say amazing. But,
Okay.
but what's wild about it is I wrote that whole speech in like 40 minutes. And it was literally based off of what I was going through at the time. And so, you take these four, what I refer to in the talk as personalities of water. So the beauty of water, the destruction of water, the resilience of water, and the versatility of water, and then kind of just playing those things into our life. And you think about it, and this, I'm not a huge Bruce Lee dude, but I know one of his things is be like water and flow and not let any, and water is one of the softest substances on earth, but it's also one of the most hard and destructive as well. And so, yeah, I was just, I say I ain't that smart. I'm just a little boy from Cleveland. So everything that I do, I give credit to the divine for just me being a vessel for. So yeah, that's what put on me. And I stood on that stage, and standing on that TED stage. I never played in the NBA. I had some invites, I had some tryouts, I had some summer leagues, but standing on that TED stage and getting my first author copy of my book, those were my mama I made it moments. You know what I mean? When you like, okay, I did something. So it was an honor to stand on that stage. I know there's so many phenomenal people that want to do it that haven't done it, and then also joining a team of absolutely amazing people that have done it. So yeah, just honored and blessed to be able to share that platform, and most importantly, as you mentioned, share my experiences through my authenticity.
And I think that was the most amazing part. You had me at the different phases of water simply because I am a science nerd. So I was like, okay, I'm already in here, right? But I
Yeah.
think that's the most amazing part about it, that you said. I love how much that you are so multifaceted. And that brings me to my next point with you about, your initiative, Athletes of Purpose.
Yeah.
Coaches, as athletes, former athletes ourselves, one of the hugest things that most coaches can agree to is you have some coaches who just care about the X's and O's and wanted to win, and that's fine because we all want to win.
Sure.
You are competitive, fine, but it is very rare. It is starting to take a turn. The pandemic has helped that, but it's very rare that coaches truly care about the holistic approach, as I call it.
Mm.
Can you talk us a little bit about Athletes of Purpose, how God gave you that, and what you do, and how that helps our athletes?
Yeah. So it started, you mentioned that why in my name, and it's so wild because I've asked my mom this like 2 or 3 times here, probably in the last 5 or 6 years, like, yeah, why you put that why in my name? And her answer stays consistent. She was like, I just wanted you to know that you were unique or uncommon, and different. And I was the guy that just hated to have his name misspelled. Obviously, that's not the typical spelling of the name Jason. And yeah, now it's become my tagline. Like I mentioned to you, spell it correctly because it's all about the why. And Athletes on Purpose, like it started rooted in this quote that's over my right hand shoulder of the book. Like, we talk all this stuff about it's bigger than the game, it's bigger than the game. Well, if it's bigger than the game, why do we focus so much on the game?
Mm,
And I use my own experience, and that's been the most beautiful thing about this entire thing is I just use my own experience. I use my story. I tell people I fell in love with basketball because my dad was a musician. And after they give me the sideways puppy face, like, what you mean? It's my dad. He didn't vicariously live through me. He didn't put these expectations on me when I was a little kid of playing on a certain team or scoring a certain amount of points or starting or anything like that. It was, hey, I'm an artist. I can't really teach you the game of basketball, especially the ins and outs of it. So he gave me a pat on my butt and told me I support the heck out you. And I have 2 sons. I have a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old. I raised them the same way. My 13-year-old and I have just literally in the past couple months started basketball workouts because my thing to him was always, look, man, when you're ready, I'll give you everything I know. But until you're ready, I'm not about to frustrate you or me giving you something that you don't want or you ain't ready for.
that's
And
right.
yeah, and he came to me a couple months ago at 13 years old, and he's like, Daddy, I'm ready. And he's been playing on the team since he was in the 6th grade. And, he's not very good. And I don't want him to be very good in the 6th grade. If he chooses to do this, I want him to be very good at 26, not 13, you know? And so, yeah, that whole thing with Athletes on Purpose really just started with this quote of if it's bigger than the game, why do we focus so much on the game? And then the individual focus is actually split up into 3 areas. First off is the athletes. So for them, my core thing for athletes, and it doesn't matter whether you're high school, whether you're college, or whether you're pro, is identifying your identity beyond the game you play. And I don't care whether it's basketball. I don't care whether you shoot it, throw it, hit it, spike it. I don't care what you do. It's not a ball and you running track or doing something else. It's who are you? And so much of their identities is wrapped up into the sport they play because of those expectations that I spoke about earlier. Parental expectations, coaching expectations, their own expectations. Like they get wrapped up into these identities, and then all of a sudden, be it injury, be it skill set, be it a pandemic, all of a sudden you don't have that anymore. And now you're stuck with trying to figure out who you are. And what I found from my friends, and again, my own personal experiences, the longer you do it, that don't necessarily put you in a better place, because the longer you do it, the more ingrained in that identity you get, and the harder it is to break it. And so that's the athletic purpose. And then also, if I'm dealing with athletes, I got to deal with their parents and I got to deal with their coaches.
Yes, you do.
So, from a parental standpoint, it's educating them. I have these 3 words that I stick to: misinformed, uninformed, and ill-informed. And I've been blessed again to be able to work in the elite youth basketball space, specifically on a brand side. And you get all of these parents that are, hey, your son or your daughter can really play. And like, don't tell that to that parent, and that their child is 12 years old. You know what I'm saying? There's so much development physically, mentally, mature wise, that goes on between 12 and being recruited. So yeah, just arming these parents with the tools that allow them to be able to parent to the best of their ability. And then the last one is obviously the coaches. And again, we were a part of that Embrace Us group. In my first meeting, when Coach Brittany Zell said, help the helper, like that was it for me. Obviously, that's a phrase that we use within our sport, but my focus is, how do I put coaches in situations to be better leaders for the people that are in their care? And it doesn't matter whether it's your staff, whether it's your athletes, whether it's your parents. We do so much helping for other people, but who's actually helping us? And that's actually where the business has taken off here in the last couple months. Is once you can get over that ego of doing it the way that I've always done it. Coaches, we had to slow down in this time too. And so often we can fool ourselves with the busyness of our schedule, but all of a sudden we got to sit down just like everybody else, and you're forced to be with yourself just like everybody else. And touching on that purpose thing, as I shut up and let you ask questions, the biggest thing that I found out with purpose, and again, this is all related into my own personal story, the biggest thing that I found out with that universal question of why am I here, or what am I here for? People struggle with that. Like it's almost impossible to know why you're here if you don't know who you are. And I learned myself in living in somebody else's country for the early adult years of my life. Ages 21 to 34, I spent 9 months in somebody else's country. And I don't care whether you got the coolest teammate in the world or somebody that you don't talk to outside of practice, you're not spending 24 hours with them. So I was almost forced into an opportunity to be by myself, learn myself, reflect within myself. And it still takes some growth and some maturation. But yeah, I share, how can we be better as coaches to make sure that our athletes are better as people as well? Because they're people before they're players.
I think that's so huge. And I love that first of all, it's important to know why you're here. And it is impossible to know why you're here if you don't know who you are.
Yeah.
In addition and extension to that, because we're on a servant leader, it's impossible to know why you're here if you don't know who you are and whose you are.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a conversation that is continuously had and shared on this platform, because we can't know exactly who we are until we understand whose we are.
No doubt.
Here, why he created us. I was telling somebody the other day, and I tweeted this out. I said, your purpose is your purpose. We so often try to fight with one another about space. I'm reading the Tragedy of Commons with my AP Environmental Science kids. We do it every year. And we talked about freedom in the commons, but we also talked about resources and what happens when everyone's attacking the same resource. We see that every day in these jobs that we hold. We said it in the athletic and sports community, where everyone is trying to do the same thing. Everyone wants to win and attack the same resources, but everybody has a separate purpose.
Yeah.
And an ordained purpose that was given to only them. But the problem is we stay comparing the purpose. Either A, we don't know it, or we stay comparing the purpose because what it looks like. When I look at Jason, does Jason's compare or seem bigger than mine?
Yeah.
And what happens is that purpose that God gave me, I'm sitting here thinking it's small, but I don't understand that purpose that I'm now not doing, I'm not doing his will. And so things are missing.
Sure.
Somebody's life is not changed because I thought my purpose was small. And so I think that is so huge in what you said. The other person that I wanted to shout out is what you said, Coach Brittany Ezell, another servant leader. Yeah. Air hers in a minute. I'm telling you, when she opens her mouth, it's like a trance comes over you that your mind opens up and says, accept this knowledge, accept this knowledge. Mm-hmm. Amazing. And you're right. The helping the helper. That's another reason why God gave me this platform, is because what place do coaches have? We have all these X's and O's platforms. All of these, hey, want some blobs, want some slobs, wants to be able to figure out what to do on offensive and defensive end, right? But what happens when we want to come to a place to tap into that other side of us? We every day, every game, and every practice empty. Who fills us? And so you're so right in that. And just on the last thing before my next question to you, my mom wanted to say good afternoon. And she said, Mr. Wells, your mother gave brand when she uniquely spelled your name and shared her rationale with you why she did it. Keep representing your unique brand. We all have enough replicas. See, I didn't even read that. I need more originals. That shout out, Mom. That was awesome. I'm original, she's original, but if you look at us at the same time, I'm a replica of who she is. Proud of that. Jason, it's so awesome just seeing everything that you do. And I think it's so amazing just how you help that I'll call the triad of village. Okay, that parent, the player, and the coaches, and it's important. And what happens, and I put this in the chat when you were talking, so often coaches lose sight of why we do what we do. So often you see those parents and those coaches who had dreams deferred, and they're utilizing that and pushing these kids to things that they wish they could have done. What would you say to coaches, especially in this time where many of us are listening and normally we wouldn't have in the hustle and bustle? What would you say to coaches and leaders who haven't figured out their own identity? They haven't had their dreams fulfilled, and they're placing that on these young people instead of helping them find their own path.
Yeah. Oh man, what an amazing question. So I'll lead this off the way that I shared something else. Any of these things, and people, I'm not a huge Twitter person. I've been doing my best to get better at it, especially watching you and Coach Mo and Cabral Huff go at it. Like,
we're gonna get you right. We're gonna get you right.
There. But I'm good at retweeting. I'll grab some and retweet it. But people give me these accolades and these credits for the things that I say or the things that I'm doing. And I'm so serious, Chelsea, when I say I'm divinely living my purpose.
Yes.
So I've created divinely again through an acronym for purpose. And so there's a lot of people out here. And so I got this thing. I'm struggle with social labels. I struggle with like terms like when I was when I was heavy in the basketball space, like basketball trainer, like, I don't like that. I'm doing more than that. So honestly, I was kind of one of the first people that started to play around with the term skill developer.
Okay.
Yeah, like I ain't training basketball. Like you train a dog. Like these are people. I'm developing people, and it's more than just basketball. Motivational speaker is another one for me. Like I struggle with that word. Like that ain't on me whether or not you get motivated. That's on you. And especially as I'm in this paid space now where people are paying me to speak, I would not be okay with myself if you paid me to motivate your group, your team, your organization, and that's not what I did. So that's why I'm an experience teller. I'm just telling my story. And so through that, with this whole purpose piece and answering your question, everybody's out here talking about, find your purpose, line your passion up and all this. And they're like, okay, cool. Where I find that at? Like, is it under this rock? Is it behind this tree? Is it around this corner?
Right.
And again, the thing that I've learned most is we struggle because we don't know who we are. Well, so if we need to know who we are and whose we are, like you mentioned, that's an internal journey.
Uh-huh.
you know, we start looking for our purpose externally, like it's somewhere out there, when our purpose is rooted in here. It's rooted in self-reflection and being
Yeah.
connected to your creator.
Yeah.
So the acronym that I've created to take us on this journey of purpose, which is what I call it, the first P is passion. The U is uncommon. The R is resilience. The second P is preparation. The O is opportunity. The S is service, and the E is experience. So we literally go through this journey of answering these 7 questions. What am I passionate about? What makes me uncommon? How am I resilient? Not you got to be resilient when life punches you in the face. You got to get back up. That sounds good, but how? How do I do that?
Yes.
How do I do that? How do I prepare to capitalize on these opportunities? Opportunities don't come once in a lifetime. They come all the time. It's just often we're not prepared for them. And then the last 2 are my favorite 2. Services, like we talked about this before you press record. I like to define success as greatness for me. I like to define significance as greatness for somebody else. Like, how is my greatness great for somebody else? So that's who I'm serving. And then the E is experience. My grandma used to tell me, if you ain't been through nothing, you can't tell me nothing.
Come on, grandma. Yes.
So, but it's embracing of, we were messing with Coach Bruce before, but you know, so often we don't have issues sharing the peaks of our journey, but we don't share the valleys of our journey. We don't share those tunnels and those caves. And no, that's where the purpose is. I do this exercise where you know, I basically have people imagine that everybody has to cure the cure to cancer. And you not sharing your story is you not curing somebody's cancer, because somebody is only going to hear what they need to hear the way that you have to say it. And if you don't say it, then you might as well go to your grave with the cure to cancer. And we all know how we would feel with that. I know I would feel different. My dad would still be here. So I know how I feel. If I were to think one person had the cure to cancer and they were selfish enough not to share their story, I'm gonna feel a certain kind of way. So I got no choice but to share mine.
I think that's huge. I mean, that was a jam-packed and right on time message. Shout out to you, grandma. Okay. And I love that. And I'm gonna tell you why, because I believe, and I grew up in the village mindset. And so that's another portion and on another day that we could discuss. But those one-liners of wisdom that we received helped us come. You said so much in this, and I'm so glad you touched on this. I had a conversation with so many coaches about sharing our experiences. Our testimonies are not our own.
Yeah.
The problem is we hold them so close to the vest. I said this every time. You can probably find this on 3 to 4 episodes already, because I'm so passionate about that truth. I know what I experienced. And especially when you coach and lead young people, even your peers. My mom used to always call him, she from Missouri. He's from Missouri, the show me state. Show these babies, okay, how do you know? It's hard and I'm going to make it. How do you know? And those are, and I know you have an athlete like that, if not for your whole team, because those are my babies. Hold our testimonies to our vest. We hold those valley moments, as you stated, to our vest, because I'm not telling people my business. Oh no, I can't let people see that I struggle. But it's the struggle that strengthens people. It's in that testimony of those valley moments that you talked about that give people their freedom. There's a quote, and I can't remember who said it right now. And somebody actually that I followed posted this the other day. And it says, if a man lands on a mountain, how you think he got there?
He ain't fall there.
He just land there, right? And I tell people that all the time. I can tell you God's a healer, right? He is. But I can tell you he's a healer, and add the extension in there to let you know I know it personally for myself. And watch that person, since you mentioned cancer, I know that you were just bridging some gaps there and making a point, but watch that person that's experienced cancer say, now, wait now, I was hopeless, but now you're giving me some hope. Hold it to myself though, y'all. How can somebody be broken free? So I appreciate you for that. The other thing that you mentioned, I love this acronym, man, because I think that it creates a global experience for our young people, even our adults, honestly, because when you your passion, it's uncommon, the resilience, preparation, opportunities, service is huge. And I'm gonna stop right there because right? Service is huge.
Yeah.
And as soon as I was writing, I was like, yes, come on, Jason. Acronym before he said it, y'all. I did not. And so when you mention service, I think that within our young people is a piece that's missing.
Mm-hmm.
Up in a technology age, they're growing up with so many other things. I just had a birthday, y'all. I turned 34, right? And people always tell me everyone on my coaching staff is older than me by design. I want to be better. And as I say, hey, you can't teach me something if you ain't go through nothing, right? And when I say that, they say, oh, wait, you young. Stop telling them kids that. I'm like, I am, but I grew up in a unique time, right? Because social media was just on the rise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There was no TikTok and Instagram when I was in school, right? We had MySpace. We don't bring that back, okay? That's an introduction, but it was only for college students. You had to have college email, right? We didn't have all these little things that they're putting out here. And I tell these young people that cell phones were not what you knew them as right now. I was rocking with a BlackBerry and I thought I was doing something.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that very moment, our young people are consumed with so many opportunities, but they miss those opportunities that you have out here in the acronym because they're like this.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're following the latest trend. Service is a piece that I've learned that when you teach these young people the value of service, it opens their heart. It allows them to stop being selfish, right? Why do you think service is something that's lacking in our young people? That's the first question.
Yeah.
Part to that is, how can we provide an act of service attached to our programs to help these young people do that? Because if we don't, who will?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like to answer the first part of your question, I feel like it ain't sexy. It's just like ain't nothing sexy about that. You know what I mean? It's I don't want to just learn how to do this basic right to left crossover. I want to do a right to left double crossover between the legs step back. Well, you can't do the double left to right step back if you can't do the crossover. So whether it's basketball, and that's the biggest thing between what I do, Chelsea, is like, okay, cool. Let's take this sport that you're interested in and you think that you're passionate about. I don't say you think that you're passionate about, and let's take those things and let's show you how all of the skills and principles and beliefs and values that you gather from this sport are transferable into life.
Yeah.
I am who I am as a 43-year-old man because I had a great raising, a great upbringing, and everything that I went through in between those lines. Every one of those words I went through in between those lines first. Passion, uncommon, resilience, preparation, opportunity, service, experience. That all started in between my lines. And so now it makes it really easy for me to step into who I am because I've done it already. I've been here before. And so, to answer that question of how can we teach our young people to serve, I am huge on modeling. What gets rewarded gets repeated. You put them in situations to be able to practice it. You put them in situations to be able to do it. And then you tell them good job for it. I think that's one thing that as a culture and as a generation of adult, I feel like that's one thing that we don't do enough of to our young people. We're so hung up on they different, they soft, they this, they that. Like, and we ain't giving them enough. Hey, great job. You know what I'm saying? Good job. Even if good job wasn't perfect job, you gotta reward that. And so I learned that from a behavioral piece. You got a kid that might not be locked in or might not be, doing what he or she's supposed to do. I ain't gonna necessarily spend a whole bunch of time on him or her. Hey, Chelsea, I see you over there, eyes locked in. Like, I'm gonna focus on what I want. And then all of a sudden, Chelsea perked up because she like, yeah, I want to keep hearing my name.
That's right.
And now all of a sudden, Jennifer over here, she perked up too. She like, well, dang, she ain't said my name. I want to make what is Chelsea doing that I need to do so she can say my name?
That's right.
So yeah, I feel like the biggest thing with service, but then that goes back to that experience piece too. We can't continue to hold on to those frustrations, discouragements, anger, hurt, trauma, pain, all those things that are the low points of our life. We can't hold on to those because the service is sharing those. Now they see it. Now they do it.
Jason, y'all. with a Y,
It's silly.
because everyone has a why, and that's why he's here. Okay. I'm telling you, now y'all see what I got on that first phone call, man. I mean, I think that's huge. And you're right in that. I often reflect back on my first year of coaching and where I am now, and how so often, because of modeling, all right, what you think a coach is supposed to be, I truly had to reconfigure, right? Seek the person who tells us how to move, because what you said was perfect and it is right on time. We actually just started a accountability competition within our program that has nothing to do with basketball.
Sure.
It is competing on the intangibles, right? And I don't hold nothing to my vest. If y'all hear it, one of you can, but it's rooted in the same thing that you just said. All right, we have some injuries, so they're like, "How do I play?" Oh, boo, this has nothing to do with basketball, right?
Right.
When you go, I believe who it was. I don't want to give anybody the wrong. With Minnesota, it was Minnesota, I believe, women's basketball. The other day, they tweeted out, and it was perfect, right? The baby got an and 1, right? And that's normally what would get the highlights and the looks on social media. But it was almost like a rope was attached to all 4 players. And when their teammate fell, somebody tugged them, because in sync, they ran and picked their teammate up. My players, and I said, "Is this us?" And I left it at that. You know, and I love the responses. I always say this group right here is a bit different. Because, you know, normally kids are, "Yes, we do that. What are you saying? Why are you sending that?" You know, their response was, "That's us sometimes, but we can be better." And as a coach, I'm like, "Ooh, okay." You know, we started this on intangibles. Who's cheering on the bench? And I'm not talking about we're up by 10. I'm talking about we're down by 30. Who is?
You ain't gonna let Coach Daniels lay that down.
Hey, I'm not gonna let him go till we see each other in January. He knows it. Who's the one who's making sure that when they're the senior and they're the 9th grade, and the 9th graders got their head down, because that same crossover you talked about, it's not as easy. So as a senior, when I remember Coach taking us through ball handling and I was struggling, can I tell them about that experience? Can I down there in a water break and before practice and help them? Those are the things we're looking for. All right. Who's taking a charge? Now, I know I said no basketball, but those are intangibles in the game that's necessary. Who wants to get down and dirty to do the things to help this team win that's not on the stat book? And in life is exactly what you said, right? We have to model these things. I say it, and it is the truth. This generation is a bit different. But that being said, because they're different, we can't keep teaching the same way. We can't keep modeling the way we used to. If we want to reach them, we have to go back into the drawing board.
Yeah.
Just ask me, "Coach, what are you doing differently this year?" It seems like the young ladies are truly tapping in. And I said, I have to keep going back to the drawing board. Blessed that I was able to talk to so many coaches over this pandemic, and still. But as a teacher, there's another side of me. As a teacher, you teach, in my classes are 25 to 30 people, right? Now it's hybrid, but everyone doesn't learn the same way.
Sure.
So I'm going to keep watching a young person fail and be okay with that as a teacher, or am I going to find multiple ways to bring across the same information? So yes, in the 80s and the 90s, the athletes were different. They were. Well, now in 2020, almost 2021, they're different. Who's to say what was better or worse? But what I am saying is, if you're trying to teach the young people in 2020 and 2021 the way you did in the 80s and the 90s, that's why they're different.
Yeah.
They're not listening. If you recognize they're different, what are you doing differently? And that goes back to what you said. We train dogs. We do. And I think that was huge. This is the servant leader, man. And it's
Chelsea,
what you said in the first line.
So much what you said.
Go ahead. Yeah.
What you said about the generations being different. Yeah, they're different, but they've always been different. We were different from our parents too. You know,
Yep.
Shout out moms. I know you gave her a shout out for already being on here, but every generation has been different. And that is the question. Okay. So if they're different, what are you doing different? Because if we consistently try to teach them the ways that we were taught, then that ain't gonna cut it. Like I was brought up, coached, parented, and taught by baby boomer men primarily.
Yep.
And baby boomer men are not, they ain't necessarily throwing their arm around you telling you how much they love you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's absolutely no disrespect to them, because they were on, like, so this is one of those things where I don't realize how powerful statements like these are until I say it. But you teach what you've been taught,
Yeah.
unless you have that growth mindset, development mindset, abundance mindset to say, oh, okay, what do I need to go to make sure that I continue to develop? Otherwise, you teach what you've been taught. And what most people have been taught, especially coaches, have been, if it ain't hard, it ain't right. If I ain't yelling, I ain't coaching. If I ain't cursing, I ain't coaching. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I just had this conversation, and I think Coach Huff is on here. I know I saw his phone on here earlier. Yeah.
He is.
I had a conversation with his team earlier this week, and one of his guys are like, I yell at me, cuss at me, and I'm like, okay, cool. Understand though, I can coach you and I can love you without doing that as well.
Yep.
And I think that's so important, especially like for both. I was about to say, especially for our young men, but for our young women as well,
Yep.
because all of a sudden he navigates through life and he thinks that the only way that he can be coached is when he's yelled and screamed at and cursed at.
Yep.
And he's gonna miss out on a lot of opportunities because they don't come in that package. And this is where you and everybody in Embrace Us, Coach Huff, all of these people, we become monumental. Mo Williams, like, this is because we are showing them a different way of care, love, service, trust, relationship that is so different from what most of us got when we were young athletes. So yeah, I just think it's important that we do that, for sure. Sorry, I took up all the time. My bad.
No, you were fine. Hey, what do we say? It's organic, organic and authentic, and it needed to be said. And you had so many coaches. I'm not gonna steal their thunder because we're gonna open it up in just a bit, but it needed to be said, and that's just it. And I think, like I said, going from year 1 to now year 11, still young in the game, as a coach, that is one of the biggest things I learned, and that is tailor-made coaching. Just how you have to teach students differently. I cannot go in coaching 15 young ladies the same way. So your approaches must be different. And I think that's exactly what you said. You may want it to be hard. You may want to be cursed at because that's all you've been taught. But let me show you the way. And watch, how much better you become. Watch your growth expand. And not only that, in life, no boss is going to come cuss at you and scream and holler, right, in order for you to do your job. Sometimes you could be fired, not even really know why you didn't. Yeah. You're just scooting along because you have always been taught as an athlete that if I'm wrong, coach gonna yell and scream. That's not how life works. I can promise you, Sprint, Verizon, they're not gonna yell and say, pay your bill. They're gonna see a couple notices. Email, text, and if not, we're gonna cut you off. And so we have to show them that way. And I think that was amazing. I have a few more questions for you, but I am going to take this time to make sure any coaches, leaders, our people fellowship on us today, if you have anything for Mr. Jason Wells, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask, comment, or whatever you see fit. I'll give you that opportunity.
Hey, Mr. Wells, how are you, sir?
Anthony, how are you, man?
You are how old right now?
I'll be 43. I'm sorry, 44 in 2 weeks.
Damn, I never looked that good when I was 40.
I appreciate that.
No. Everything you're saying is really hitting home. And I think that sometimes we know that, but it's hard for us to accept, because like you said, this is all we know, right? We know that.
Can I go shameless plug real quick?
I like that. Throw that in the chat. Throw that in the chat. That's not shameless. If you don't share it, we're never going to know about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love everything you said. It's very true. these kids are very different. You know, we can do part of what we did, what we know from when we were players. But can't do all of it.
Yeah.
Never going to work.
Yeah.
We're not doing them justice. And, you know, I Coach Chelsea knows I talk to her, you know, on the regular. Haven't been a couple of months, of my fault. But I have 3 children of my own, 29, 27, and 22 just graduated. And they only know me being hard on them. So they're different than what's out there. And
Sure.
and I've explained to them that's their benefit. That's their benefit that they need to use, because if somebody, you know, will recognize that sooner or later and is going to value that. But that's not the norm. That's not the normal 29-year-old, 27-year-old, 22-year-old.
Sure.
You know, and you hit it right on the head. You know, it has to be a mixture of everything. And then you really were, you know, as they say, throwing some gems out there.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Jason, great job. Chelsea, awesome. This is an awesome platform. I'm glad to be a part of it today. Really thankful that Jonathan connected us. I have another question, but when you talked about water, you said it was beautiful, destructive, versatile, and I didn't get the last one.
Resilient. So actually, if you go in order, resilient was before versatile. So
Okay.
That's the order that not that it comes in an order, but beauty, destruction, versatility, and resilience and versatility.
Because like Anthony, I have 3 sons, 11, 6, and 3. And one thing that I try to drive into them is just the ability to, you know, put forth maximum effort in everything that you do.
Sure.
Academics have come extremely easy to them. I taught middle school history for about 6 years in conjunction with my pastoral role at the church. But, you know, so they understand the educational space. And so now my oldest is in middle school, and some of these classes are a little bit more challenging.
Yeah.
Not to mention he's learning in a virtual environment. So a lot of it is really self-teaching and him understanding the ability to really have to do things on your own. And I wanted to share that with him when we get done with this call. But one of the things that really stuck out to me was the fact that, you know, like, you know, who pours into you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so like as a pastor, a lot of times I'm pouring into people all the time. Every Sunday, I'm teaching this quarter in our midweek Bible class. And so like I'm pouring out all the time. And so I've really been trying to make it a point as far as my purpose can't grow unless I'm being poured into as
Absolutely.
well. So I've really tried to be intentional about finding a number of things, a number of platforms to, you know, gain things. Because I went so long without it. And so sometimes you try to put accomplishments in as a coping mechanism, but then that leads to getting burnt out, you know? And so, and then I mentor some young men as well. And so this is just really good. I just wanted to say that like, this has been a blessing to my Saturday, you know, before I relax, get my mind right for tomorrow and watch this Earl Spence fight later. But I'm excited. I'm excited. Thank you.
Yeah, no doubt. I appreciate you.
Anthony and Vince.
Come on, Anthony. Come on. Can we cut off his camera, Chelsea?
Hey, I know. Look, I can't do it to him.
Straight from New York. So you know I gotta love them.
Hey, we you know, we have a rough season this year, but it's okay. My Cowboys, man, we have a rough season.
Man.
It's hard. It's hard. So y'all pray for me.
Hey, look, I couldn't cut the camera off because you shouted out my mother about 20 minutes ago, and she is a Steelers fan. So I can't do that.
Now I'm gonna take that back.
She said, "You better go Steelers."
Yeah, I see. She all in the chat and everything.
Look, you mentioned resilience. I am a Dolphins fan, and I'm silently praying us continuously through because I'm loving where we are, but I'm still gonna just through humbly. I'm one day off. I had my Fins hoodie on yesterday, so if I would have known that, Coach, no cowboy talk, please.
You know what's funny,
They didn't
Coach?
mention they didn't mention the Falcons though.
Because he can't mention them. He know why. That's why you got to divert and start talking about other teams, Huff. Come on, man.
We can,
Sorry, Coach. What did you?
we definitely can learn a lot from the Steelers organization because they have evolved, right? You think about it, right? What do they do when a guy wants a lot of money and they say, okay, you got to go.
Yeah.
We're good. We're not mad at you, but this is not what we do here. We're about football, So it's great you could go. And they've had success letting great players go, but they really weren't great players. What we thought were great players. But greatness came from something else, right? I mean, so we can learn a little bit from that. I don't want to make that plug. I'm sorry.
We're not mad at you, Coach. We're not mad at you at all.
Coach Chelsea, can I throw some in, and it actually ties right into what Anthony and Vince were both talking about, and what you ended off as well. So, I call everybody coach. I ran across a definition of mentor that didn't necessarily sit well with me a few years ago, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna stop using that word. So, but I just call everybody coach. And so whether it's in the athletic space or not, this guy happens to be in the athletic space, but I never played for him. Actually, he was more of it was after I retired, and he was more of a coach, life coach, as opposed to athletic coach. His name is Jim Burson, longtime coach in Ohio. He coached at a small college in Ohio called Muskingum for a long time. His son actually played at Ohio State, Jay Burson, phenomenal player that I grew up watching. And I worked with Coach when I was in the Nike space. And we were having a conversation one day, and he's 75 years. He's been telling me 75 for the last 3 years. So he's at least 75, maybe 78, 79. But we were having this conversation, and he's like, we're talking communication, and he's good friends with George Ravlin and guys like that. And he's like, Jason, back in the day, communication for us was a written letter, or we picked up the phone and we called. That was how we communicated. Is communication now is the new letter and email, is the new phone call, a text message. And my response to him was, Coach, it doesn't matter. Like, what matters is the fact that we communicate. That's the principle. And then further along in that same conversation, we're talking about this generational thing that we've been talking about with the athletes. He's like, we can't coach this new generation of athletes like we coached you guys. I was like, Coach, it doesn't matter. The principle is they still need to be coached. And that's where I came up with like this idea of it's the principles that remain consistent. The procedures change. The principles remain the same. And he and I in that moment, and I've looked it up as much as I can, but he and I in that moment came up with a quote. I'm a quotes guy, and I just love the knowledge and the wisdom that quotes provide. And what he and I came up with in that moment is change with the times, but cling to unchanging principles. And if you can take that and put that into Huff, that's one for you. You ain't heard that one yet, bro. You but take that and apply it in any area of life. Apply it in your relationship, apply it in your family, apply it in athletics, apply it in your profession. Change with the times, but cling to unchanging principles. Principles don't change, procedures do. That was a drop the mic moment right there. I'm just gonna drop my own microphone.
I had just let the silence breathe for a second on that one, because that one, and Huff did. He said that one's big time. Be one of his gems that he puts out, because I immediately, my hands started writing. And I love that you said that. And it was definitely God's will that you said it, because it led me into the questions that I have for you as we start to make a close on this. And all I heard in my head was, hold to God's unchanging hand. So that being said, you had to hold to God's unchanging hand throughout your career, throughout everything that you've been doing. Can you talk to us about God's unchanging hand in Jason Wells' life?
Yeah. I don't even know where I would be without that. We were joking again before you press record, and I'm saying I don't even know who I am. My life is a blessing across the board. Little boy from Cleveland, Ohio, inner city Cleveland, Ohio, and I run across people and anybody that's from a metropolis area. Like, there's a reason that LeBron, I'm from Akron, I'm not from Cleveland. It's so easy for us as the big city to pull in the little city. But when you're from the little city, like people from Flint, I'm from Flint. I ain't from Detroit. You know what I mean? But for us, we grew up with a whole bunch of you can'ts, you won'ts, you shouldn'ts. It wasn't a whole bunch of you cans, you wills, you shoulds. And as a little boy from Cleveland, I fell in love with basketball because that's what I did most. You know, I was playing with my friends. I got good at it. Because I got good at it, opportunities started to present themselves. My college scholarship, I went to Indiana State because that was my only D1 offer. Other than that, it was going to be a bunch of D3s in the Cleveland area. Or JUCO, which at that time was still taboo. That was for the kids that were jerks or not good in class. So my overseas experience, I had absolutely no issues telling anybody. My first job was $3,000 a month, $30,000 for 10 months. You do the math, you know? And now, you know, one of the things that I do my best to give to this generation is like, I don't know if they know, like, it's a grind. We like, they say I'm out here grinding. You ain't grinding if you got your phone in your face documenting the grind and you ain't grinding.
Come on.
You know, so, and then from there, the blessings only multiplied. So when we talk from a spiritual level, I was raised Southern Baptist by my big mama. And then I went to Catholic school from 6th grade to 12th grade. So I got that experience. And then I played 5 seasons in Israel. So you can't get no more spiritually connected than that place. You know what I'm saying? And 2 of those years were directly in Jerusalem. And so like, I remember the first time I went to the old, I got goosebumps just talking about it. I remember the first time I went to the old city and a couple things happened. The first thing was the old city is on the Arabic side. So you have to go with a Muslim that's leading you across the wall and into the old city. And he said, nothing catastrophic will ever go down in Jerusalem because everything is so intertwined. Christianity, Islam, all these things are so intertwined together. Nothing like that. We can't, like, whatever terrorist acts you think we got over here, it ain't gonna go down in the old city, because for me to destroy something that's sacred to you, I'm also destroying something that's sacred to me. So that's awesome. And then the other part to that story was when I went the first time to the old city, we're going through and we walk into the cave where they had the Last Supper. And the cool part about it is they don't try to recreate it. It ain't no table in there with this big purple plush tablecloth. No, it's literally a cave. You are inside of a rock. And when I walked in, I instinctively took my hat off. And the dude was like, my tour guide, he was like, no, you don't have to take your hat off. And I looked at him like, bruh, if this is anywhere close to what you telling me it is, that's the least I'm going to do is take my hat off. You know? But my thing is this. I know what I believe in. I know what I'm rooted in as far as my spiritual beliefs. But my travels around the world have really allowed me to be able to, like, when you break down religions across the board, religions all boil down to the same thing. Love yourself, love others, love the supreme. Whatever you may call them. Whatever you may call them. It all boils down to the same thing. And so, you know, I could get off on a tangent with this, but as I look at the world and where we are, and you're talking about, you know, obviously social injustice and voter suppression and all these things that we talk about in our country specifically, like we care about it because it's right here with us. But I had to take a trip to South Africa and really start to study apartheid. And we can point the finger at apartheid and talk about how terrible it is, and then look back and it's like, we just didn't call it apartheid. It's the same thing. So loving people, and my definition of love is a commitment to someone else's well-being. Not a family love, not a romantic love. If I can be committed to someone else's well-being, that doesn't take time like a romantic love, and is not inherent like a family love. I can literally look at Anthony, look at Vince, look at Chelsea, know Bruce, and I can say I love you because I'm committed to your well-being. I'm committed to what's best for you. What can I do to do what's going to be best for you? And that's love to me. And I feel like, that's one of those things that's simple but not easy. But I got this big audacious goal to inspire and influence 77 million people. So I need each and everybody on here to do it. I can't do that by myself.
Y'all see him? Like I don't know if you could see it. It was almost like Sega used to be. It's gonna be like Sega. All right, Sonic the Hedgehog, when he used to just be floating through and the rings hit. I just see little jewels just boop, 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 just coming through with that. Hey, right. Huff said mic drop.
Yeah.
Thing,
I appreciate
right?
that, bro.
And it's funny because I see him. Vish, you have something for us?
I just have a question. Because I'm a very big picture guy. Even when I was coaching the varsity D-line, when I lived in Phoenix, and now I'm just exclusively, in my pastoral space and community work. But can you elaborate on, because you're very specific in your direction. And I believe that sometimes I'm big picture. I know where I want to go.
Sure.
But there's a certain sense of detail, or like you just gave a number, right? Like, you want to impact 77 million people. And I'm always curious to know when people arrive at these numbers or the specificity of their direction.
Sure.
Like where does that come from? Because I know for me, like I'm big picture.
Yeah.
Right. Whether I'm preaching on a street corner or I'm at Genesee Avenue with 300 plus people. Like, I feel like my purpose is the same, but I know I want to impact a bunch of folk. But how did you get to that place?
Yeah. Specifically with the 77 million, bro, that is not a random number. So that number represents roughly 1% of the world. So 7.7 billion people in the world. And I went from, I can't remember exactly, but, late teens going into college, I used to always refer to myself as a 1%er. And I never really knew what it even meant back then. I felt like 99% of the world was different from me. They ain't move like me. They didn't think like me. They didn't act like me. And how that's progressed over, experience and maturity and all of that is 99%. If you're a 1% looking at the 99, that's a daunting number. Because you're either looking at how do I influence, impact, change the 99%, or like it's basically impossible. And so I just had a mindset shift of, I know the 99% is there, but the energy that I give off doesn't even acknowledge them. I'm a horse running with blinders on, and my energy only gives off energy where I attract other 1%ers. So I'm allergic to garbage, and it's there, but I'm allergic to it. And again, the energy that I give off only attracts 77 million. And I can't do that by myself. So I need you, I need Chelsea, I need Anthony, I need everybody on here and everybody that you connected to, because that's going to get us to the 77 million.
Yeah, that's I knew it wasn't a random number. I knew you didn't wake up and say I want to impact 77 million. Yeah. That's why I had to ask, because that's kind of one of the things, like with me, like I think about those things and I try to really listen to what people say. So man, blessings, brother. That was good.
I appreciate, and that the last thing, Vince, with that is that's not a dollar amount either. Like, and yes, I understand. This is how I put food on the table, but that 77 million isn't a dollar amount. That's an impact amount. But now just imagine if each one of those 77 million just gave me $1. I feel like I can make that work. I can, if I do right, I can budget that right, So yeah, man, that's an impact amount, not a dollar amount too. So it'll come, man. I shared this not long ago, and this is another one of those things that I didn't realize the power of this. Like somebody not too long ago asked me, well, would you do it for free? And I'm like, man, I that's what I've been doing, is doing it for free. I'm at the point now where I need to challenge myself and coach myself into the business side of this. But also too, at the same time, I shot a whole bunch of jumpers in the backyard before somebody started paying me for them. And so, you know, right now, whether it's a limited budget situation or whether it's, you know, we all living in this pandemic and finances are just uncertain, you know, I got the ultimate faith that if I keep serving the way that I'm led to serve and being obedient in this lane that I'm supposed to be in, I'll be all right. I'll be good. So yeah, yeah. Faith is, it's more than just wishing for it to happen. You know, faith without action is dead, right?
Come on here, Jason. You know, I was sitting here too, and you know, I knew that number wasn't random. And you also spoke about the, you know, that 1%. And I think it's amazing because I immediately started thinking about the parable of the lost sheep. Because Jesus left the 99 for the one.
Right.
As my pastor say over there in Matthew and Luke, y'all can look at it, right? Because Jesus left the 99 for the one. And so I think that's so amazing because it also talks about simply the fact of servant leadership and that number you represented. I don't have to do it all.
Right.
You have to do my part.
Right.
And so that takes me to the way that I always end this thing. I'm on a mission of creating the longest and of correct, true, wholehearted, compassionate thoughts of what servant leadership looks like. You said when we opened up, you said servant leadership, you Google it. I promise you, you got 1 million books. You have 1 million, all these different things, right? But it's about that compassion. And I laughed because I said, well, shoot, he honestly gave me an amazing new definition when he defined how he gave love. And I was not going to ask, but I said, no, because if that was a new definition of love, let me see what he has for servant leadership. So to Jason Wells, how do you define servant leadership?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's really simple. It is touching on what I spoke about earlier when I was talking about service in the acronym. So, you know, we all aspire to have this level of success, which to me is personal. So I define success as greatness for me. And then significance is now me taking my greatness, my personal greatness, and now how am I giving that greatness to somebody else who's great because of my greatness? And so when I think servant leader, I'm thinking, how am I pouring myself authentically, not buzzword authentically, real authentically? And authenticity to me is also this tree of, if authenticity are the leaves and the branches on the outside and the umbrella word, I feel like authenticity is rooted in self-awareness on one leg and vulnerability on the other leg. Self-awareness is, I define it as my ability to take all of the things in my life and not associate them with good or bad. They just are. I'm divorced. The world will tell me that's bad. My divorce also allowed me to be able to jump into what now is serving as my purpose. So it just is. It wasn't good or bad. And then the other leg to that authenticity piece is vulnerability, which I define is, you know, your ability to be able to share your weaknesses, your uncertainties, your fears, your struggles, and share those with people. Those two things. Am I aware of what I've been through? Can I not associate it with right or wrong, good or bad? And now can I share, especially those obstacles and challenges in life? That's authenticity. And a leader is anybody that's got somebody following them. So now how can I take my significance and pull one person, you know, push one person, grab one person by the hand and just, or just model. So that would be it.
I think it's awesome. And I think it's awesome because it continuously, the theme of this whole thing has been transparency, authenticity, and purpose leadership, right? And it started even back at the beginning of our conversation where we said you have individuals who are trying to judge and measure out our purpose with a meter stick. Your purpose is your purpose.
Mm.
What I called you to do is what he called you to do. And if it's to help those 1%ers or to help the 99, do what he's called you to do. Pour into those that are following you with authentic leadership. Help my greatness pour into them with significance so they can become great. Giving of myself to help the helpers and being okay to share what I've been through. it just is. But what I can share with my vulnerability can help that 1 or that 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Jason, that being said, man, I'm here. I was trying not to turn my pages so loud. Be heard when I compress this audio down. But brother, you have me over here with my notebook equipped with some notes and some wisdom and some gems that you have definitely dropped today. I'm just thankful for you. Before I even say everything else, I'm thankful for the man that you are. I'm thankful for the servant leader that you are. But more importantly, I'm thankful for your vulnerability today, because it truly did help us. And I know that when this airs out for those that need to hear it, it's going to help them too. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Before we close out, I'm going to ask 2 things from you. I'm going to ask 1, you give us a one-liner to coast into our weekend. And I'm going to ask 2, that you close us out in prayer. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, one-liner would just be, I'll keep it simple because this one doesn't go away from me. So on my wrist all the time, I wear a band that says "Do you."
I was waiting for that
one. And we all talk about "Do you," and mine is actually an acronym. It's DEW, which is my dad's initials. And when my dad passed away in 2003, it literally was just my little tribute to him. It was, I used to call him Do Man, and that was just my little thing. And this was right around the time when rubber bands were coming out. Lance Armstrong had the Live Strong bands and all that. So it was really just my little tribute to him. But then I was moved to be able to, this is also the cornerstone of what I refer to as my purpose statement. So my dad's initials at its core, and my purpose statement verbalized is to develop and empower winners so they can go inspire and impact the world. So that's what the DEW is, develop and empower winners. And yeah, everybody talks about do you, and that's cool, but it's going to be impossible to do you if you don't know you. So yeah, that's the challenge. That's the work. We can do all of these strength finders and disc assessments and all of that, and those are cool, but that's not the work. The work is actually saying, this is who I am, this is who I want to be, and figuring out that path of how to get there. So do you.
Amen.
Let's do it. I'll do the prayer.
I appreciate it.
Father, we just thank you. We come to you humbly, kneeled, with gratitude and servitude and obedience, that you continue to guide us, direct us, and lead us in the way that you see fit, not the way that we see fit. So often we get caught up into our plan and forgetting that the only plan that matters is your plan. We pray that you continue to arm us with the tools needed to navigate our personal journey, so therefore we can come together in our collective journeys. We pray that you continue to arm us with strength to be able to get through the challenging times and those obstacles and things that look like they can be deterrences to us, but really they're just ways to be able to arm us to move forward again in your purpose. So Lord, for the rest of today, tomorrow, moving forward, and for every other step that you see fit for us undeservingly to receive in your way, we pray for guidance. We pray for strength. We pray for wisdom. And I am just eternally grateful for every opportunity that you provide in front of me. And I pray that you continue to keep my eyes open to see those opportunities in way to be service and provide opportunities for others. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.